When I shine the bright light of reason. I'm Larry Elder. Join me tonight at 7 right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. So in response to the massacre in Las Vegas, you had Hillary Clinton tweeting within hours about the NRA. You have idiot celebrities like Lena Dunham messaging. I'm just going to read it because I can't make any sense of it. No way not to politicize this tragedy. It's about gender and race as well as access to guns. Considering it random is comforting and dangerous. That's Lena Dunham getting us out of our comfort zone.
I mean, it's ridiculous. But Hillary, back to Hillary's tweet real quick. She said we shouldn't, politicize this and then just slam the NRA right away.
Right.
And that's why we know that we're glad she's not president.
The way we don't politicize it is by politicizing it.
Exactly.
And then Washington Post, these breathless pieces like Kyle Griffin reviewing the NRA's donations to members of Congress over the past 20 years, finding $3.5 million plus in donations across 400 races. Sean Davis, the co-founder of the Federalist, explain the folly of that rather quickly just by doing some simple math. So that's $190,000 a year spread across 400 races, Sean Davis tweeted. Planned Parenthood spent $38 million just last year on politics. It takes, Sean Davis continued on Twitter, it takes a special brand of DC stupid to insinuate $3.5 million over 20 years is game-changing when last year's candidate spent $6.8 billion. Yeah, it does take a special kind of stupid, but there's a lot of people stuck on it, to borrow a general honoré-ism. For more antidote to the stupid, we're pleased to be joined by David Harsanyi, also of thefederalist.com, who has a thoughtful piece posted yesterday. When you politicize shootings, you make it harder to find solutions. David, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
It was my pleasure.
The politicization that you address and the kind of the media ignorance about guns and just sort of emoting and sentimentality as public policy is sort of what you're addressing. And why do you suggest it's more difficult to find solutions or agree on sensible preventative measures with some of the rhetoric that I've been describing?
Well, I mean, if someone comes out and says, we have to do something about bump stocks that make semi-automatics fire as if they were automatics. And maybe I would say, as a Second Amendment advocate, that's not a terrible idea because bump stocks circumvent law and we should try to fix that. But when you come out and say the NRA has blood on its hands or what we typically hear, the first reaction is, you're trying to take our guns away, which I think most people on the left want to do, frankly. I mean, I think that they incrementally want to do that, or they want to make it harder for people, law-abiding citizens, to have guns. And I think what happens is that we just fall into our old, same old cycle, the perpetual political cycle, certainly on this debate. And so I guess my argument is we need to offer, or they need to offer, something that will stop mass shootings, not something that will take guns away from, ordinary citizens.
But the problem is that nobody has the secret knowledge. Nobody has the answer. But they want to, they're going to perfect man. So all we have to do is identify the motive. And then depending on the motive, we'll either rationalize it and blame somebody else, or we'll address it through passing a law. And that's going to prevent this from ever happening again. Of course, as you suggest, it seems to me in the responses and the back and forth in the wake of Las Vegas is not dissimilar to other terrorist attacks, whether they be foreign or domestic, Sandy Hook incidences of where mental illness was at play. It seems like we're stuck in this, we're stuck on this merry-go-round of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, this is an unpopular view I have, but I think that a lot of the underlying frustration, and I actually think there's a difference between political terrorism and someone who's sort of snapped or has a mental problem and just randomly kills people. One's sort of a nihilistic act. I'm not sure that there's anything other than maybe, there's anything we can do other than maybe as a community try to look out for people who are suffering and try to, say maybe we should take your guns away. Maybe you don't need these guns or whatever it is.
Right.
As opposed to terrorism as a political act, where you have a sort of overriding ideology that people sort of kill for a reason, more of a reason. What the underlying frustration is that there's nothing we can do about evil. It's going to exist. I'm not sure what we can do other than confiscate everyone's guns, which is obviously not a feasible thing, or one that I would want anyway. Or we're going to have to try, I guess, as communities to look out for this sort of thing. I just don't know what we can do. I wish there was an answer, and I'd be happy to discuss that with the left. But saying, let's ban assault weapons or whatever, that is not helpful, because it's not going to stop these events.
And Paddock wouldn't have stopped. I mean, if he couldn't purchase the guns, I mean, look at it. He purchased 33 guns within the last year in 4 different states. He wasn't mentally ill, according to his brother, and he wasn't deemed that by the government by any means. And if he didn't use weapons, he would have tried to kill another way. And I say that because there was fertilizer, ammonium nitrate, found in his car.
Right. I mean, he passed. Listen, we don't know everything about this. Who knows? Things may come out. But as far as we know, and as far as many of these mass shootings go, in fact, almost all of them but one that I looked at over the last, I think it was 10 years of these major mass shootings, was perpetrated by people who basically got their guns legally by going through background checks. Most of them don't have criminal records. Adam Lanza, who stole his guns from his mother, and they were all registered and legal. I don't know what universal background checks or this sort of thing would do for a person who has no criminal record, and as you said, seems mentally stable. You're talking about a 64-year-old man. This isn't a kid who's schizophrenic or something. This is someone who's been around and people know, and no one suspected anything as far as we know.
Do you have concerns at all about advocacy for more Big Brotherism, more cameras and more places, as well as sort of the, not martial law is too strong a word, but I mean the sort of security checkpoints everywhere you go, including hotels? I note that at the Wynn Hotel on Monday, guests were being scanned and a bag searched before people were allowed to enter the Wynn Hotel. Now, I don't know if that's going to be the new normal at hotels in Vegas, or it's a temporary thing because people are on edge. But, I mean, what about that? More security checkpoints, more cameras, which are sort of becoming ubiquitous anyway.
I don't love that sort of thing because I don't think it's helpful in the end. But if a hotel wants to make its guests feel more safe and they want to search people for guns, you don't have to go to that hotel if you don't like it. So I guess that would be okay by me. But I do worry when everyone yells, do something, and they just do something. They do anything. And typically that sort of law is going to be intrusive, and it's not going to really do anything to help with the problem. I would be open to doing something if I knew that something would help in some way and not undermine the ability of law-abiding citizens to own firearms. I don't know that anyone suggested any law that I've heard that would do that. So that, to me, is the key there. And, I think that people confuse machines that kill, and they think they act and write about it like they're robots that kill on their own. It doesn't work that way. This is a human problem. I know people don't like to hear that, but it is.
All right. He is David Harsanyi, nationally syndicated columnist, senior editor for The Federalist, thefederalist.com. His piece is, when you politicize shootings, you make it harder to find solutions. David, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to